use your God power to get everything you ever wanted and live the life of your dreams. The Master's Course. Copyright 2010 by Richard Lee McKim Jr. All rights reserved. Let the quest for knowing begin. Think with your mind and not your brain. This is going to be a very important section to understand. Your brain is not the amazing organ that you might think it is. You don't think in your brain, and you never did. In fact, nothing happens in your brain, and nothing is controlled by the brain. Your brain is only an elaborate representation of your thinking and functioning ability. Let's take this step by step. First, remember the people who could see with various parts of their bodies, and even the little girl who could see through a blindfold and read a book? They were seeing without using their eyes. Seeing is a functional ability that operates and resides in your energy body. It is not a function and ability of the flesh or matter. Remember the woman who was blind from birth, who had the near-death experience? When she popped out of her body, she could see for the first time. It even scared her because she had never experienced sight before. When she separated from the flesh of her body, she still had all of her senses and thinking abilities. She could see, hear, think, and remember anything she wanted to recall. The most important example I want you to remember was the woman who had the brain operation. Her body and brain was put into total shutdown. Her blood was drained from her brain for the operation, and her body was cooled down. Her heart stopped beating, she stopped breathing, and was technically dead. They wanted to make sure her brain was shut down, so they put what they call clickers in her ears to monitor for any possible brain activity, and there was none. At this point, there was no possible way for her to experience anything through her fleshy body. It was totally dead. It was at this point that she had her near-death experience, where she also popped out of her body and, like everyone else, floated near the ceiling looking down on the doctors. She was listening to them and watching them work on her body. She recalled watching them cut open her skull, and some of the others were messing around with their legs inserting something. Later, after she was back in her body and awake, she recounted her out-of-body experience, and everything that she had witnessed was accurate. The important point here is that she was thinking and consciously observing the operation. She had the use of all of her senses and thinking ability. She knew who the doctors were and what they were doing. That is a function of her memory, which was still available to her and working perfectly without the brain. All of these conscious abilities are functioning in the energy realm and not in the flesh. Interestingly, the newly created memories of floating above and watching the doctors is still in her mind. She can still recall those memories in great detail to this day. But her brain was in no condition to and incapable of creating and storing memories at that time when it was drained of blood and nearly frozen. However, if you had some special way of probing her brain now, you would be able to find and discover those memories in her brain now. That is, represented there like every other memory is. Is that new memory really there? No. Is any memory really there? No. You can find and discover them there, but they all reside solely in energy form. In fact, we know that every single experience that you have ever had is present in your energy form. This has been confirmed again and again every time someone has a near-death experience when they experience the quote-unquote life review, where they relive their entire life in seconds. I know what you are probably thinking right now. Okay, the brain, like our eyes, ears, and everything else, is only a representation. Why shouldn't we think with it in the same way as we see with our eyes and hear with our ears? What is the harm in thinking that we are thinking with our brains? I'm glad you asked that question, and in fact, it is the most important point of this whole section. It is not that you will be harmed by thinking that you are thinking with and from your brain. It's that you will be limited. Representations are limitations. Let's first reconsider some of the seeing-related examples we have already covered. First, remember Ingo Swann? He was able to see Jupiter up close from millions of miles away in his mind. He considered it seeing because it was a visual thing. But if he thought that he could only see with his eyes, he would never have been able to see Jupiter. This is because we all know the limitations of our eyes. If they are closed, we can't see a thing. And when they are open, we can only see what is in front of our face. However, the man who could see 360 degrees around him was able to save his own life because he expanded his seeing ability beyond what his eyes could do. The girl who could see through blindfolds enough to read a book shows that she is not using her eyes. If she thought of her eyes as we do, then she would never be able to see through things. What about the tribal shaman who developed the ability to see into the human body to diagnose medical problems? And the woman from Australia who closed her eyes and is able to see all, as she says. And last but not least, all those who have been able to see with different parts of their bodies because their eyes weren't working anymore. All of these examples are of people who have used their seeing function in a way that their eyes would not be able to represent. If they had stuck with the idea that they can only see with their eyes and only in a way that the eye can see, then none of these feats would have ever been possible, because representations not only represent what you can do, but they also represent what you can't do. So for the people who were blind, if they believed in their physical eyes, they would never be able to see again. But instead of being defeated, they transferred their seeing ability from their represented eyes to the place where it really functions, in their energy form, the mind. By doing this, not only can they now see again, but they had unlimited seeing ability. Seeing from the source of seeing means that you can see Jupiter. You can see inside the human body. You can see through things, and you can see in ways that have nothing to do with the light spectrum and the physical eyes. They were always able to see from the source of seeing, but they thought they were seeing from their eyes. When you think that the vision is from the eye, then you can only see when the eye is working and only what the eye is supposed to be able to see. This is like our radio example. Did you know that the real tuner on the radio can receive many more frequencies than the tuning dial represents? When you tune the radio through its tuning knob and dial, you can only tune in what the tuning knob and dial will let you tune in. If you were to instead tune the real tuner directly, you could get much more than you would have otherwise been able to get. Now, let's talk about your mind and its representative, the brain. First, there isn't anything that the brain does that you need. It is just like the radio tuning dial. Sure, it tunes the radio, but you can tune the radio's real tuner directly. When you think that you are thinking with your brain, you have the beliefs and meanings that you can only access what your brain knows. And it only knows what you have learned in school and life.
Options. Now activating the next video, play options. 1 moment please. Click on the green arrow to start watching the next video. Or, click on the red arrow to start watching the prior video. Or, click on the tan arrow to go to the main course menu and guide, with links to all course chapters, excerpts, and special reports. Up next, special video options. Click on your choice of course videos, menus, and excerpts. Now switching to the special video options menu and activating the video selection buttons. Click on your selection number to start watching the video. "15 seconds till we switch to the next page with the free download information. Pause the video now if you need more time to review the available selections." This is the end of this course video. Its video number is listed above. To watch the next video, simply click on the next video in number sequence. Thank you.